idea behind growth mindset is that mistakes, problems, setbacks, disappointments are inevitable in life, and it's not that you can avoid every single one of them, but it's that from every single one you learn a lesson and you grow. You make sure that they don't happen again as much as possible. So he told us this, and there were nodding heads around the group. People seemed to like this idea. What lesson could we learn from these 3 horrific days that we just had? And it became this wide-ranging conversation over what had happened and how we could improve things. And it was during that conversation I realized I'd made an assumption about this race that was just wrong. It was incorrect. Yes, I'd seen this Clipper race as a race of 10 teams rather than a race of 10 yachts. But there were 10 teams with identical starting resources, broadly following the same strategy, going through the same experiences at around the same time, learning the same kinds of lessons together, and generally kind of on the upward trend, getting better at the same rate. But it was during that conversation I realized that that's not how the world works. Learning a lesson isn't something that happens automatically. Just going through an experience isn't always enough. It's a very deliberate practice. And in a team environment, it begins with a conversation, sometimes a very difficult conversation. And I realized that how we did this bit, something bad's happened, how do we learn from it? How do we have that conversation in the immediate aftermath was going to be hugely important for us. Because I'm sure you can think of identical teams or maybe even identical candidates, as much as they can be, who end up with vastly different outcomes. And often, where those outcomes begin to really diverge is in that aftermath of their first big setback, their first big disappointment. So this bit was going to be absolutely critical to us. Because this is around the world amateur yacht race. What were we expecting? We were going to make more mistakes. We were going to have more, disasters. And it's not that they were avoidable. I mean, in hindsight, everything is avoidable. But just given the risks of what we were doing and the length of time we were out there at sea, they were kind of statistically inevitable. And how we responded to them was going to be really consequential because it was going to go one of 2 ways. We could either carry on with that kind of dialogue, we don't deserve this is unfair, kind of write it off as bad luck, hope it goes better next time. Or we could see it as some kind of indication or sign that we'd reached the limit of our capabilities, start questioning, our own abilities. Or we could see these things as an opportunity to grow. And I know it's much easier said than done, but that's really the mindset shift that we needed. And we made a vow to each other that day, sat there on the deck of that yacht, that we would only learn the hard lessons once.